Hello and welcome to the Perth Gaming Crew Show. Today you've got me, your host, Jonathan, and Ludley. Welcome back to the show, Ludley. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Always happy to be here.
It's awesome. Thanks for joining today. For those of you, the people of Perth and Beyond, who are hungry to see Johnny back, don't worry. He's just off on this episode, but he will be back again. There are rumours in the Perth Gaming Crew mill that we might even cover Batman in the future, not too far away. So let's see what happens there. Before we go on, it is Father's Day tomorrow. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there from Perth and Beyond. Johnny and Ludley and myself, we're all dads, so it's a special day for us. So go spoil your dad, or if you're dad, just go treat yourself and enjoy your time with your family or your kids or your loved one or whoever matters to you. Okay, so last episode we did a massive special on the Switch 2. Thanks for those of you who are joining. But we do need to feed the hungry people of Perth and Beyond some information about the PlayStation 5 Pro rumours. And it's also a great time to look at where the PS5 and Sony is at the moment and compare that with the Xbox Series consoles and Microsoft as a whole. So before we go on, there's just a couple of key stats. Some of you own these consoles, some of you are thinking to buy them. But a couple of key stats to kick us off. So the PS5 in particular was launched in November 2010. It's currently the fifth fastest selling console of all time. It's behind the PS4 and PS2, but it's doing very well. Sold about 61 million units worldwide, although in this quarter, there was a 21% decline in revenue compared to last year, hardware revenue for Sony. The PS5, the PlayStation ecosystem has 110 million users. So about half are still with the old PS4s. So they've got a few issues converting people from PS4 to PS5 there. And yeah, in that last quarter, there was only 2.4 million consoles sold compared to 3.3 in the previous quarter. That aside, it's by far one of the leading consoles and absolutely killing it over Xbox. Some of the top-selling games include Marvel's Spiderman 2, which has been their best one at 11 million units. And then we have Ratchet and Clank coming in second at close to 4 million. So some of the exclusives are up there, and then Elden Ring's right up there as well. It hasn't been all rosy for Sony, though. So earlier this year, Sony announced that they aren't going to be releasing any first-party exclusives for this financial period, which goes all the way up until next year in March. So there's been a bit of a drought for those first-party exclusives for a lot of Sony gamers, although we have seen some really good games released this year, games like Stellar Blade, particularly Helldivers 2. I know, Ludley, you've been playing that, and that's just been phenomenally massive. And there's some games coming up that look good, like Astrobot, a bit of a Mario Odyssey take on Astrobot. Although Concord, which recently came out, has been a massive flop. So fans are kind of a little not super happy with where Sony's at the moment. But the biggest news at the moment, Ludley, is the PS5 Pro. Like, the news is talking about this is coming. It's coming in September. Ludley, what do you know about that? What can we tell the people of Perth about the PS5 Pro and our thoughts on that?
Well, they've been rumoring this PS5 Pro for a while now, and it seems to be a pretty beef machine, you know? I did not expect, I got surprised when they start referring to it to have, like, almost 3 to 4 times the power of the PS5. And my biggest wondering about this is why, you know? PS5, if you look about, like, everybody's complaining about this generation. It's been a very weird generation. There's not many games if you think about it. You know, like you have a library of games coming, but if people thought that PS4 already had not much of the franchise following up, in the PS5, like, it seems much worse. You know, like if you get one representation for each franchise, it's already a lot, you know? And on top of this, they're already pushing, like, a new machine that I don't understand. I really don't. Because think about it, like, when they released the PlayStation 4 Pro, there was a goal for this one. It's like, oh, look, we need to have 4K games. You know, like 4K TV is getting big. Let's have 4K. You know, and the whole thing about the PS5 is like, okay, look, all 4K games gonna be 60 frames. And if you think about this generation, very few games are not reaching the 30 frames, you know? So when you think about the PS5 Pro, what they're gonna do with this? It's gonna be like a machine for exactly what? Like you already have a good frame rate in most of the games. The only thing that I be hearing a lot about this is like, oh, Sony wants to be the ultimate machine to be play Gran Turismo 6. And even Gran Turismo 6, they say this PlayStation 4 Pro, 5 Pro, may not reach the 60 frames. So I'm confused. I'm confused about this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I hear you too. And I think like in terms of the specific kind of tech specs that we're hearing about, like there's this talk about a 45% increase in raw power, 2 to 4 times boost in ray tracing, support for 8K resolution, massive GPU increase in teraflops to 33.5. Look, a lot of gamers don't really care about this kind of thing in some ways. I think a lot of people who want to buy like a high-end gaming machine will buy a PC. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like the question is, who is this for? We know that Sony doesn't have any massive games coming out this Christmas period. And the rumored PS5 Pro is expected to come out or be announced next month. And typically when you announce a console, it should be a reason for the announcement. It should be, all right, here's the console coming out and here's the wonderful games that are coming out with it. There's been some speculation that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be like the game that people will buy a new Sony PlayStation Pro for. And we saw the GTA 6 trailer come out earlier this year. It looked amazing, analyzed to death. It looks fantastic. And for those of you who don't know, if you look at the top seller charts, Grand Theft Auto 5 and the previous games are the best-selling games just consistently year over year over year. It's like the Call of Duty franchise. It's the franchise that just sells so well, performs constantly well, and people are really excited about, and it's money in the bank. So the question is like, is this game isn't coming out till next year and late next year at that? Like, what is the need for the PS5 Pro? What's the value in it? I'm with you too, Ludley. Like the idea of the PS5 Pro doesn't really excite me. I look at the games that have come out for the PlayStation 5 already. So, we're looking at games like their top tier games that are exclusive, particularly like Marvel Spider-Man 2 or Ratchet and Clank that you can't get on the PS4 because there's not many games on the PS5 you can't get in the PS4. And go, do these look good enough? Do they need to look better? Like, would you buy a PS5 Pro for Spider-Man 2 just to play it a bit better, or for Ratchet and Clank to play it a bit better? Doesn't appeal to me at all. Ludley, what about you? Is there any incentive for you to buy like a PS5 Pro, or do you think it's just not worth it, given the PS5 is already quite powerful?
Yeah, that's the thing, like, it's what I said before. PlayStation 4, for some reason, is still going strong. People don't realize, but like half of the people that plays on the PlayStation 4. Of course, people want to move to the PlayStation 5 because the new is the new Shine machine, and has start having more exclusives like Spider-Man 2 doesn't have it in the PlayStation 4, and that is an incentive to move to PS5. And PS5, like as much as 4 years in the market, people still see as a premium machine. Like the price is not going down. Like actually the price is going up. And it never had happened this before. Never happened in the middle of the generation. Like a price of console went up. It just went up almost $90 in Japan. Like
yes, and everything, I saw that. I saw that too, and I thought, oh my god, like how are you increasing the price? Like
exactly, and you increasing the price just before announcing the PS5 Pro. So how much this machine gonna be? If you think about it, like the PlayStation 5, if I'm not wrong, like the retail price is still $800, $150 in Australia.
Yes.
This PS5 Pro is gonna be over $1,000.
Yep.
Like there's no way they're only gonna put like 150,000 on top of this. It's gonna be much higher than this. So probably gonna be a machine like around 11 to 1200. That's my guess. I could be wrong. But I would not be surprised.
It's really hard to know. Like, I think those are pretty fair guesses because I think a lot of the reasons people buy consoles over a PC is because they don't want to spend over $1,000 on a high-end PC gaming, and you need to buy a high-end PC, and that's fine. You want to buy something that's affordable. You put your disc like game in, or you download your game. You got to control it. It's very straightforward to use. and it's like family friendly, and that's why you do it. I think the more consoles creep into the PC space, the less attractive they can be, or less affordable they can be. As you mentioned, like the current PS5 is, I saw the cheapest ones were going for about 750. Sometimes they're on sale for a bit cheaper, but not often. And given the price bump in Japan, and not to mention that, but we saw an increase in the price of games anyway about a year or two with this generation. So the games on a PlayStation 5 are already about $90 or $100 on launch, like from somewhere like EB Games or JB Hi-Fi.
Even
You
higher
might
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the collector's editions and all that kind of thing. And it's like, man, I mean, like, who's going to buy their kid for Christmas $1,000 PlayStation 5 Pro? Like, who wants this and who needs this? I guess my other question, like, Ludley, for you is like, a lot of these games that we're seeing that are exclusive to the PS5, and there's not many. It is like Spiderman, like it is Ratchet and Clank. We've got Final Fantasy 16 on there. There's currently a big problem that PlayStation is facing. So there's a report that came out with Marvel Spider-Man that it sold 11 million copies, but the developer said it needed to sell at least 7.2 million copies just to break even. The budget was $300 million for this game. Likewise, we've just seen with what we've got here is Final Fantasy 16 on the screen. Square Enix has put Final Fantasy 16 out there. It's selling pretty well. I've got the latest figure is about 3 million, and that'll be an evergreen title that'll continue to sell well. But Square Enix has recently announced this year to say, look, we can't afford to do this. We can't be exclusive anymore. We're going to bring all our they've said we're going to bring our future games and some of our previous Final Fantasy games to the Xbox system, and we're looking forward to it. They're going to be bringing out a lot more cross-platform games because it's just not affordable to lock the game to one console, as good as this looks and as good as a win that this game is. So I can't see the reasoning or the need for a PS5 Pro. I'm not sure who's going to buy it. I mean, there might be some PS5 diehard fans who are keen to upgrade, and they might see some incremental improvements, or they might have an 8K TV where they're like, okay, this looks better than 4K. But, you know, Nintendo, we talked about Nintendo the other week. They're still doing like 1080p HD, and it still looks good for some of the games that suit, like Mario Odyssey, for example, or Mario Kart. I just, don't know what's going on there. So I guess, Ludley, the other thing I wanted to ask, is there anything that excites you about where PlayStation is going as a console this generation? Anything you're looking forward to in particular? And do you think we're in the middle of the console generation, or do you think we're nearing the end of it? Where do you think PlayStation's at? Because you have a PS5 too.
Look, I have everything, and I'm terrible because I'm complaining a lot, and they're should be true they're selling this to me, the kind of the customer, because they announced this PS5 Pro, PS5 Pro, and if it's not that obscene, I'm probably gonna buy it. Like I always do it. There's no way. Like I would do. I'm terrible. Like
would you really though? Like, would you really buy it? Like, if it was $1,000, like if it came out to $1,000, which it probably will be.
I'm not a reference. I'm not a reference at all. Like I bought the PSVR 2 in the release. Like I'm not reference. Like, don't take me as a reference. Like I'm the crazy gamer, so they announced something in China. I have 5 Switches, 4 Switches,
Okay.
So it's I'm not reference for this, but I don't see the general public going this is like, oh, I'm gonna buy this. May confuse a little bit the people, because people already think like, oh, PS5 is the premium console, and then you have Pro, and the guy's like, oh, wow, but now I'm not the PS5 is not the premium product anymore. Is this Pro? But this Pro is like obscene, it's expensive, but I don't want to have like something that is not the best. Some people are not gonna buy. Some people probably not gonna even buy the PS5. They're gonna wait the PS5 Pro drop the price. That probably not gonna happen anytime soon. To get it, I think people gonna get a little bit confused. Best case scenario gonna be exactly like with the PS4 Pro and the PS4, that a lot of people still went to the PS4. Some people went to the Pro. I went to the Pro just because I want a VR a little bit better there.
I think it was more of a market increased with the PS4 Pro too. Like we saw
Yeah,
games come out at that point in time that were more that like drew on the PS4 Pro power,
it
whereas
was more
here it's
stable. It was more
hmm,
stable on the PS5 Pro.
hmm.
Sorry, PS4 Pro.
PS, yeah,
Yeah,
no, like
I
you said,
keep.
it's easy to confuse the two, and that's the thing.
Yes.
And we've just seen Sony announce earlier this year the PS5 Slim, so to speak. I'm not sure if you remember that, but they
Yeah.
announced like a slimmer, smaller version, which was a criticism of the PS5. And look, they've done that since the PS2 or PS3 days, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There was no change in the hardware, the specs, so to speak.
No.
Like just the physical format had changed. So yeah, it's interesting to say you would buy it. And I think you're right. There is like core gamers out there. There's Sony fans. There's people who just love gaming. They're like, oh, I would like to see what the next one is and compare how does Spider-Man run on this. Does GTA look better on the PS5 Pro? Yeah, is it worth it? I do question like the value of the console in the broader market. And I think if you put $1,000 game console on the shelves, people are used to buying more expensive consoles now. Like we've seen that with this generation, but there was hesitancy there. And $1,000 is a lot of money when you can go buy a Nintendo Switch for $400 with literally 2 controllers, and you could probably buy 20 games on sale and some top premium games and still save like money compared to buying a PS5 Pro or even a PS5 or Xbox Series X.
The problem with the Switch and I think the demographic for both consoles is different. There's a lot of people that is in the middle that they have both and like both. But say to me, when the Switch release and release with the Breath of the Wild was not much after the PS4, if I'm not wrong. And it did not bother me so much the graphic because like we went from the PS3, the Switch is a little bit better. Now I would say like I still like my Switch, but the graphics start to bother me. It start to get old. And as much as like we need a Switch 2 now, just because of this like just a little bit bump the graphic. I don't like it needs to be at least a little bit better than the PS4 because you have like the Steam Deck, that can perform much better. If Switch get there or a little bit better than that, the Switch 2, that would be good. That would be good. It doesn't need to go PS5 level, and that's another problem. It's like when you think about it, like most of the people, at least what I see, that buy the PS4, PS5, the Xbox, they go for the graphic fidelity. Okay, like Switch is another thing. They have a lot of gimmicks here and there. That is amazing. Okay, people goes for this, but people who stays on their PlayStation, Xbox is graphic fidelity, and that's a big problem that we have because from the PS4 to PS5, yes, graphics are better. But it's not crazily better. It's not like PS2 to PS3 or PS3 to PS4. Because even PS3 to PS4, like the end of the PS3 and the beginning of the PS4, it wasn't that crazy. It was good. It was better. You have games like Killzone that was like, cool, this is next gen,
I remember Killzone, yeah.
Yeah, but the PS4 to PS5, it was not so much. And like the difference from PS5 to PS5 Pro, I think going to be more stability than graphic fidelity. And that's the other thing. To get this graphic fidelity, it is crazily expensive. It is really expensive. And the game developer nowadays, they're struggling to push these games because now you have to have hundreds and hundreds of people just to put a game, and the games are taking way too long. And the biggest problem is staff. Like each one of these developers is how much? Like $80,000, $100,000 per year. And as long as more people that are put there and longer the development of this game, more expensive it is. I see that the industry is changing to they're cutting a lot of people. And as much as they don't say it, I think a biggest reason is that they're going to start replacing a lot of this graphic designer for AI. Because say instead of one person doing like one texture in 1-2 days, you can have an AI helping and do like 10 in a day. You're gonna have one graphic designer just to adjust here and there, so that's why they're gonna cut. If they do this, that's the hard thing. In terms of people, yes, people are gonna lose job. That's not good. In terms of game development, probably gonna be a little bit quicker, and that's what they're gonna try to push, because you cannot have, like, say, example, you want to when you went to the PlayStation 2, how many Ratchet and Clank games you had in one generation? Then you move to the PlayStation 3, how many more you had? And then you move to PlayStation 4. You know, PlayStation 4, if I'm not wrong, we only have one. PlayStation 3, you have like a quite a few, you know? And yeah, you don't sell like, oh my god, 10 million, but you sell 4 million for every game. But when you get in the PlayStation 4, you're gonna sell more, but not more compared to all these games. And it takes the same time to prepare like one game that you do three, you know? So they have their own mathematics, finance, what they do, you know?
I think you bang on. I think you're exactly right. Like if you look at the Super Mario Party series on the Switch, one of those games has sold, I think it's about 20 million, and the other one around 10. And then we've got a third one on the way. Now, a lot of people just go, oh, Super Mario Party, same old thing, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look that great, but it sells. And if you have one Super Mario Party game that sells 20 million versus Spiderman 5 that sold 11 million, and it will sell more over time, you've got to consider the costs to create these games. Like, is it worth it? Like, Super Mario Party would be much easier to put out with that template that works, the multiplayer, accessibility, blah, 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 family friendly, compared to a massive game like Spider-Man 2. They have to be thinking about these things. And I think another thing I've really noticed is the cross-platform game sales. So, for example, like you were saying, a lot of the games that came out on the PS5, there's been an incremental like improvement in gameplay graphics, but a lot of these games are available on the PS4, on older end PCs, on the Xbox One, and ported to Switch where possible. So one example like out here is like Hogwarts Legacy. When you look at the sales, it sells really well for PlayStation 4 is like a key console of choice, but it's still selling well on the old PlayStation 4. And then it looks terrible on the Switch, but it's still selling on the Switch, weirdly, which really surprised me. And then there's some sales on the Xbox as well. So people are clearly happy to buy these games on the system that they own. Like there are PS4 owners who are like, well, I can buy Hogwarts Legacy, or I can buy God of War Ragnarok, or I can buy Horizon Forbidden West, like on my PS4. Why should I buy a PS5? You know, maybe the PS5 Pros for them. It's hard to know, but I think like you were saying, Ludley, the developers have to go, where are we going to sell these games? You know, if I make a PS5 exclusive like Final Fantasy 16 and it sells 3 million, there's no way they've recuperated their costs. They're going to have to downscale that, put it on the original Switch potentially, put it on PC, put it on the Xbox Series to get sales, to generate the revenue to run their businesses, of course. I mean, for me as a gamer, I'm okay with that because I think the more games available on more platforms, the better. But I think, like you said, it's a very different time to when we saw the PS2 become the PS3 and the PS3 become the PS4. And we've gone into this kind of weird generation now where the way gaming is done is changed a lot. Now, speaking of changing a lot, that's a lot about Sony, but what about Xbox? So Xbox is in a bit of a different space to Sony at the moment. Xbox is clearly like the Xbox Series X and Series S launched in November 2010 as well, 2020 as well, around the same time as the PlayStation 5. They were very hard to get at that time. When COVID was kicking in, it was just hard to get a console, so that kind of increased the demand for those consoles in the PS5. But since COVID went away and more consoles have been available, we've definitely seen a huge difference between PlayStation 5 sales and Xbox Series consoles. So in terms of statistics, Xbox doesn't traditionally release a lot of statistics, although there are some stats out there showing that the Xbox Series has sold a third as well as the PlayStation. And the current Xbox Series is 2.8 million copies behind where the Xbox One was. And the Xbox One was considered in many ways like a failed console, not just in compared to the PlayStation 4, but in general. Xbox has just seen a lot of woes since it's come out. So we've seen probably most of all the exclusive games. Well, there's another question there, but the exclusive games, Halo Infinite, Starfield, Redfall, Senua Saga, either delayed or just not be as huge and have that impact in the gaming sphere as they're expected to have. I remember when the Xbox Series launched, it was meant to launch with Halo. It was a very exciting time. It was like, great, we're bringing back Halo. And then they announced that Halo's not coming out for a year later, and it was going to take away features that were announced like couch co-op, which would just set this really kind of bad tone for Xbox gamers. We've also seen other games like Redfall just go really badly. They came out, with the companies that were acquired, like Bethesda, Blizzard, Activision. We're only just starting to see the fruit of that come through. But in the last couple of years, people would say, and I would agree, that it hasn't really borne the fruit that people expected. So Redfall was like an absolute, like I don't know what to describe it, but it was a schmozzle as a exclusive game that was coming from the Bethesda Studios collective that people are excited for. And then also, if you look at Starfield, Starfield was considered as the next really big Xbox game. I've got right here, because I do have an Xbox. It says Power Your Dreams, and it's got Starfield on it. And this was about a year, maybe 10 months prior to Starfield's release, and that game got delayed multiple times. But again, the question there is, it doesn't seem to have sold as well as that was expected to do. We're also seeing reports about Xbox sales declining year on year over the last 2 years across multiple markets, and some developers are even saying, should we even release our games on Xbox? And more recently, one of the most recent releases for Microsoft has been Senua's Saga. And they didn't even provide a physical copy of that game. It came out, it released, reviewed, it received mixed reviews, had very low player count, and it just fell on its face. So Xbox has had a very dire generation, and I think if this is back in the Nintendo Sega days, it would be falling off as a company, but we know Microsoft has made of money, so no problem. On the flip side, what has been exciting for Xbox is their last couple of showcases, and we've seen some fantastic games come out like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Perfect Dark, Avowed, and then we've also seen the IPs that they've acquired, so Diablo 4, Doom, The Dark Ages, and then there's some smaller ones that are coming out as well. So there's a lot of exciting games coming out. Again, a lot of these are going to be timed exclusives or releasing on PlayStation day one. So it's questionable about whether it's worth buying an Xbox or not. And it's really this year we've seen Microsoft release their games like Sea of Thieves on the PlayStation, which has actually sold really well on PlayStation. So that's kind of smart in terms of generating income for Microsoft. At the same time, if you're a PlayStation game, you just say, great, it's coming to my platform. Why would I buy an Xbox? Ludley, where are you at in terms of Xbox? What do you think what's the appeal of Xbox to you? And do you play your Xbox at the moment?
Yeah, no, I do. I used to be a crazy PlayStation fan. Like when I was younger, I would be like dressing the PlayStation 10, like let's go.
Oh wow!
Always fighting Xbox,
PlayStation T-shirts and all that stuff. Yeah, nice.
So like, let's go PlayStation. Xbox sucks, like any teenager that tried to pick up their side,
You had to pick a side back then.
Yeah,
didn't
you had to pick a side. Yeah, and like when you're a teen, like your parents not gonna give you both video games.
Yeah,
that's true. So, the thing is, since I moved to Australia, like I started having more contact with the Xbox. Xbox never was big in Brazil. So when I come here, I'll start giving some chance. Like Xbox One, the first one wasn't great, but one thing that I really liked and helped at the time was Kinect. Like people like, oh, Kinect is not that great. It's like, no, it's not that great for games. It's awesome for Skype.
Yes.
So and the time it didn't have all these video platforms and everything. It was something that I could use in the living room. And as I was using the living room, I was playing one game another. Then I was like, oh no, there is nice games here, and nice exclusive games. So that's what started hooking me up a little bit on the Xbox. Then they released the One X, and the One X for me was amazing, amazing. Much better than PlayStation 4 Pro for me.
Why is that? Because I don't often hear that. A lot of people bought a PS4 over a One X. What was it for you?
Graphics, like the graphics. As I say, like when you get to these consoles, it's more about the graphics than everything else. Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Xbox One X was beautiful, amazing, Then I started looking more at the Xbox. I got the Game Pass, and it's like, oh, this is good. This is good. I like this. Because I don't have to go and buy like day one games when they release. It's just in the Game Pass, and the Game Pass I still think is a really amazing proposition. You know, like it's the Netflix for the game. Some people don't like as much. I love it. Like I love it. It's always on my Xbox. The thing is, Xbox got bad on the Xbox One X. Sorry, Xbox One. Everybody knows it's not gonna beat them again. Like that was a terrible presentation. They thought they were way too good with the 360, and they missed the market. They are trying to push to get better, but the problem is, as the time they're trying to push to get better, is when the release of the games got much slower. With the Xbox. So yes, they are trying to, I think they try to be like, oh look, we're gonna have a lot of exclusives, you know. And I remember one presentation a couple of years ago, they like exclusive Xbox.
Yeah, you know? True, very true. Yeah.
The problem is the time that it takes to develop games is taking so long that say, oh, it's exclusive doesn't mean much, because okay, cool, it's exclusive, but they're gonna have to wait 1 year, 2 years for a game, you know. And as much as I think they wanted that exclusive to push Xbox, they realize they are not making too much profit doing like this. So they are going multi-platform not because they wanted. I think it's because they have to, you know.
Yes, I agree.
Because in the end, like, Xbox is one part of the Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft is a $2 or $3 trillion company, you know. But they still need to show that they are profit as a subsidiary of the Microsoft, you know, as a part of the Microsoft. So they're not doing this because they wanted, because they're doing this because they needed to survive as Xbox. They had to break this exclusive. I don't think it's what they wanted. In the end, like, I think they did. They saw it's profitable, and they're like, cool, we can run with exclusives, you know. I think if it was in the all of this was in the beginning of the Xbox One, and like they did a good presentation, like, hey, look, we are here for the games and everything, and we have a bunch of exclusives. Their story would be much different now. What I think is they are trying to buy time.
Yeah,
they're trying to buy time.
I think they did that, like they like you said, they presented, but they didn't deliver the games, right? Like, when you look at those original Xbox ads, it was like, all right, Halo's coming, Starfield's coming, Senua's Sacrifice is coming, and then there were games like snippets of other games, and they just didn't deliver them. So there's a long wait, right? Like, between games, and you're like, well, Sony's getting all this stuff. Yeah. Game Pass is great, but is it like Game Pass in particular for you that keeps you into your Xbox now, or is there other reasons that you would prefer it over your PlayStation?
I would say it's more the Game Pass. You know, like they have good games. They have good not exclusive. The games they announce, and it's like, look, if I can't have the Game Pass and don't have to pay this for the PlayStation set, the like $100 on the game, that's fine. Keep the Game Pass there. You know, it's always available. One thing that I noticed Xbox from Microsoft, they are quiet. Okay, about the next generation. They're not. There's no Xbox Pro coming. I don't think there's any Xbox Series X Pro, and I don't think they should do it. I think what they're gonna do is like, cool. You guys gonna have the PlayStation 5 Pro. In 2-3 years time, they're gonna release the next gen. Okay. One thing that I noticed, they were the first ones to blur what would be a next generation. So when they release the Series X, one thing that they say is like, oh, the name of this video game is not Xbox Series X, it's Xbox.
Series Xbox X Series or something like that, but they don't say X or S.
Yeah, is the Series X. In the beginning, they tried to put just like a reference for the console, but they tried to be just Xbox, and I think they were trying to blur what would be a generation and just bring improvements, you know. I don't think it worked very well for them. It worked well for Sony, not very well for them. So I think next generation they're gonna try to like, this is next gen, you know. and they're gonna try to undercut Sony again, like they did with the 360.
Mm.
I don't know what their internal plans, but it would be funny if they try to hold a lot of exclusive and try to push the next gen with a lot of great games right at get-go. But as I say, games are taking way so long to develop, and I think they're gonna try to change that. I think all the companies now, they will maybe have like a couple of AAA games, like but they will move back to a lot of double A's. What at least I'm hearing a lot of this. They're like, look, we're not gonna make more 300 million games. Once in a while we do, but we're gonna have a lot of like lower budget games that we're gonna try to push. Because think about it, like they just did the Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 didn't cost that much. How much it sold, you know? It sold like 10 million copies in the first couple of months, you know? So that's much smarter for them, much more profitable than try to push like a 300 million game. And like, oh, let's have a look that get this 11 million copies just to break even, you know?
Yep. I agree. I completely agree. Like, it's like what we were saying earlier about the Switch games. You release the game that's going to make profit, right? Not the game necessarily that is. And I think if you look back to that PS4, Xbox One generation, and just prior to then, like I get how people were pushing hard to get the best graphics, all the game, like really sophisticated games that appeals to everyone. But I think we're past that now. We don't want that anymore. We're moved on. In terms of the consoles, I think you're right too. So we know Xbox also just recently announced new versions of the current model. So there's a 2 terabyte Xbox Series X that's all digital. For those of you who aren't aware, 80% of sales are digital. All the physical media is going, and if you go to your local EB game store, you just see it flooded with old games from 10 years ago on the Xbox One and PS4 that they're trying to get rid of. And then they've still announced the Xbox Series S updated model with high terabyte storage too, which we're seeing here, which is interesting too, because we know that the Xbox Series S is actually selling better than the Xbox Series X, but it's nowhere near as powerful as a PlayStation or the Xbox Series X. And there's been issues with that Xbox because Baldur's Gate 3 couldn't get ported to it. They were delaying the Baldur's Gate 3 release on Xbox Series X because it couldn't come to Series S. So due to it just couldn't run the local co-op functionality as well. So there's very blurred lines going on between all the consoles and where things are going. I guess, is there anything, Ludley, that you are really excited about for Xbox that you like or that you're really looking forward to? For me, I really like how they do special editions. Like they had a June Xbox that you could buy. They've had a Deadpool controller, like it was Deadpool's butt and Wolverine's butt special controller you could get. There's a new inclusive controller, better accessibility functions that has just come out. And I like their controllers in general, and their interface and how that feels like. That's why I bought an Xbox, because I like the feel of it, the brand of it. I do like that there are some excellent games, and most of the games I buy are third party anyway. But is there anything you like in particular about the Xbox, or that you'd recommend to new buyers that they'd be interested in? Is it more about Game Pass?
Yeah, it's more about the Game Pass. That's the thing. Like, Nintendo was very smart to make some hype around all the franchise, So all the franchise, they come from way long ago, and they keep reminding everything. Is one thing that I noticed: PlayStation and Xbox, they tend to leave aside. So say it's like Cooper, These games, if you want people to be excited for this, everybody, you need to keep reminding them that it exists, is part, Nintendo do this very well. Xbox and PlayStation not. Xbox and PlayStation notice that they will do this with a couple of franchise that is doing well, and everything else they forget, So if they do remake a remaster, people are like, cool, whatever,
Yeah, it's interesting because the Last of Us TV series just came out, and you can see Sony is branding those things together, and then I think like they put all that money into Marvel Spider-Man 2 because the Spider-Man movies in particular were really successful, right? So they're building their brand around that. Oops, sorry there. Yeah, and then with Microsoft, we've seen that with the Halo series, and then Fallout more recently has come to the TV. But we are going to have to wrap up this episode soon. I just would say, Ludley, if someone wanted to buy like a new PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 5 Pro or an Xbox Series or one of the new Xbox Series, like the 2 terabyte console, do you have a recommendation in particular for someone who's new to either console or if they have an existing one?
That's hard.
Yeah,
Look,
I love a hard question at the end of it.
Look, if you're not crazy for crazy for games, stick to the PS5. PS5 Pro. I don't know. It's hard. But the PlayStation 4, I don't recommend people anymore because now we are mid generation of the PS5, so you're gonna have a couple of games they're not gonna be able to play there. The Xbox, as I say, depends on how much games you play. Do you really want to pay almost $1,000 for the 2 terabytes? It's a stupid decision of Microsoft to have like proprietary memory on the Xbox. Go to the cheaper one. The S, I don't know.
I think the S is going to phase out almost. Like the S just feels like, I know it's selling well, but like who really wants it now?
It shouldn't have been made in the first place. Like it would be better if Microsoft put all the efforts in one console and like try to put this price down or like do the digital since the beginning. Now they have like 5 consoles. You have like the S 1 terabyte, the S 2 terabytes, and the S you have in different colors, but that doesn't matter much. Then you have the X digital, X 2 terabytes. Microsoft stop. Like it's a lot of options, cool, but like your public is already very confused. Would be better if like you just made the 2 terabytes and drop the price and phase the Xbox, the first X. It's fine if it's like a special edition. Hey guys, look, the special edition here. But yeah, I don't know. Xbox, go to the X. X has been in discount a lot of times. Sometimes a little bit cheaper than the PlayStation 5. You won't have some of the PlayStation 5 exclusive, but both of them is great machines. Is what I say. Like the other things, like everything that is going to the Xbox going to the PlayStation 5 nowadays.
Yeah, I know. That's the question too. Like I would have said, like for me, I've got an Xbox and I really like my Xbox. I like it because I grew up that way in a way. Like I had a PS4, but I went back to the Xbox Series because I like the controller. I like the interface. It sounds silly, but when you've gamed a long time, you got it. You kind of like a particular brand and the way it feels and plays. I like the selection of games. I like being able to play older games, like from the Xbox 360, Xbox One, the original OG Xbox, the old Halo Remastered collection, all that stuff. I really like that stuff. And then Game Pass, I'm not a huge Game Pass person. I don't actually have it because I only play a couple of big Xbox games or third-party games, and my Switch is my main. But everyone's different. Everyone has their own thing. That said, like I'm really excited for all the exclusive games that were coming to Xbox, like Avowed, like Indiana Jones, like Perfect Dark, like Fable. It's great they're coming here. I feel confident that because Microsoft has acquired these companies, at least I know I'll be getting those games in the future in the long term if things change. So if some things do become fully exclusive or they want to like kind of cheat out PlayStation or give them some of the games like Elder Scrolls, I want that one. But I would agree with you, Ludley. I think if you're like a new gamer, I think I wouldn't buy a PS4. I would probably buy a PS5 if you like how the PS5 feels and looks. It doesn't have it has an equivalent of Game Pass, but it's not as good as we all know. But it does have a ton of exclusives, and a lot of the games are coming to PS5 from Xbox. And at the end of the day, console gaming is all about the games. You buy them because you love playing Spider-Man 2, or you want to go back and play Ghosts of Tsushima, and you want it to look amazing on your PS5. Wouldn't recommend a PS5 Pro because it's going to be $1,000. I don't think it's necessary. Each to their own. But It's an interesting time we're in. Definitely like a strange time, and very curious to see when
Hmm.
Nintendo throws out the Switch 2, how that
Yeah.
affects the market. But yeah. Anyway, so that's all we have for this episode. We are running over time. We're too excited about Sony and Xbox. There's a lot to talk about there. Keep your eyes out, people of Perth and Beyond, because a PS5 Pro is imminent. There's been rumors for a while, but some of the big news outlets are reporting that it's definitely coming with specs. So that should be coming soon. Here in Australia, what are our bets, Ludley? I reckon $1,000. I reckon it'll be $1,000 because the PS5 is 750. So what do you guess? What's your best guess?
Nah, I guess like maybe if they do a digital, could be $1,000, but
Hmm.
the disc one gonna be higher. Gonna be higher.
Yeah. There's an extra cost of the discs. Maybe they'll do a portable disc drive as well. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to be reaching deep in the wallet for that one. Thank
Oh
you for
yeah.
joining us though this week. As I mentioned, Johnny will be back next time. Hope you've enjoyed it. Check out our website at www.perthgamingcrew.com. Check us out on Insta. Don't forget, we are also coming to PAX Australia, which is in Melbourne from the 11th to the 13th of October. But for this weekend, that is the Perth Gaming Crew Show over and out. See you later.